trying this newer setup again. I can see myself behind the phone, and I think I'm a little bit off. There we go. There we go. And I'm very big and very close to the screen, but I'm using the back camera of my phone, so hopefully the quality's better. I have already done my initial skincare, so we're gonna jump right into the makeup. Today I am doing a sort of minty blue look, so like mint on the inner corner, going to sort of a cobalty blue on the outer corner, and since we are using very cool tone shades, I'm using the Painterly shade of the MAC paint pot rather than the warmer tone soft ochre. As you can see, just like the soft ochre, this is pretty good match to me because I am very cool-toned. I'm not too warm-toned, which would be sort of yellowy, and I'm not too cool-toned, which would make me sort of pinky. I am sort of halfway in between those two, which is really good because it means that I go with a lot of different shades of things. It means I'm also pale and neutral. I also have a lot of things made for my skin tone because that is the way our very colorist society is. Also, what is this society, but like specifically colorist, because even within the same place, even within countries and societies that are all more melanated than I am, like the lighter your skin is often seen as the better option. I don't know why I'm starting here today, but this is where my brain went, so we're gonna talk about racism and colorism, where it's like, even among like African American folk and like Indian, I don't think Native American folk, but like from India, Indian folk, and like other places where they have more pigment to their skin, like the closer you are to whiteness, the better it is seen, which is just ridiculous, because it really just is actually putting us at higher and higher risk of bad things happening to that very pale skin, speaking from experience. But I would say that's neither here nor there, but it's so here and it's so there. And I'm taking a small brush that has been stained mint because I am using a mint shade. This is a mint shade from the Colourpop Flower Punk palette, which I think I've used 3 times total, and it's on the chopping block for me right now. The packaging is really beautiful, and it's cool because this whole mirror piece comes off rather than being attached, and the color story is just really cool and creative, and looking at it I'm like, I could do so much with this, but then actually trying to function within it, I almost always feel like I need to pull something else into it. So like with this beautiful matte green mint shade, unless I want to keep the whole look very minty and mid-tone rather than, like, it's not pastel enough to be an inner corner highlight for me. I know it looks like that's how I'm using it, but I'm gonna blow it out of the water with something shimmery. And it's not deep enough for me to deepen up the look with. There's no deeper minty tones. And so then it's like, I feel comfortable in another color story or a palette, which I'm doing today. I'm using the one that's been on my week of trying it and seeing how I feel about it, which is the Glitter Light palette. I'm gonna use a mid-tone and deep blue from this palette, and I am going to use the really stunning there it is, Aloe Cove shimmer shade from here, but I'm under the impression I'm going to need to grab shimmers from elsewhere to like amp it up, because while their shimmers are beautiful, it's not as sparkly of a formula as I would like. It's not as impactful as a formula as I normally like, and like these mattes are so rich and buttery and blendable and pigmented, and like I love Kaleidos's formula. I miss when they did fun, bright color stories like this, because they've been very, very neutral for the last long period of time, at least with their eyeshadows. Not with their lips, not with their eyeliners, not with anything else, just their eyeshadows, and it's pissing me off. Once again, neither here nor there. I'm so all over the place. I swear I took my ADHD meds, but like, it doesn't feel like it. Gosh, so off topic already. From the Rick and Morty palette, which is just a rainbow palette. Any rainbow palette will have versions of these shades, but I'm going to use the one that has Rick's face in it, which is a really pretty light blue, and then I'm going to use the one that has the car in it, which is a deep cobalt. And I'm going to tell you, there was a period of time where no mainstream brands and very few indie brands made a bright cobalt like that. And I hate and have always hated Jeffree Star. From the very beginning, I've owned not a single thing from that man, and I am proud to keep it that way. But he came out with, I think it was the Jawbreaker palette, which was his sort of huge rainbowy palette, and it had that cobalty blue that I just never saw in any other palettes. We've seen a similar Burgundy Ice palette, but it was sold out and I was unwilling to spend like resale crazy numbers to get it. And so I was like on the hunt, and then of course I don't have it right on hand, that would be too useful and easy. Nikki Tutorials came out with her palette with Beauty Bay, and I did buy that because I love Nikki Tutorials. This was well before we knew that she was post-transition, and like, girl, slay. Like, for the people who learned that and started hating her, fuck all of y'all. I learned that and I was like, girl, you are the queen we deserve, you know? Like, coming to YouTube and just being your fucking self and not feeling the need to expose this part of yourself. And I wish you could have kept it to yourself until you were ready, but even though you were able to do that, like, when you did, you came out on your own terms. You were like, I'm not just letting this get leaked, I'm gonna tell my story, and like, I kind of love that. So once again, got on a tangent, but I got her palette with Beauty Bay, and it had a beautiful deep cobalt, and it was nice. It just wasn't as bright. It looked really bright in the pan, and then it got really dark when I put it on the eyes. And that sort of has been the experience I've always had with these deep cobalty blues. And I know I've used this deep cobalty blue before because I've wiped away a lot of the pan embossing on it. And I know it was one of the colors I was most excited about in this palette, because that cobalt blue has always been sort of my white whale. I could never find one that looked the way I wanted it to look on my eyes, and I don't remember if this one does, so we're about to find out. But yeah, I was on a hunt for this shade, and I bought a few palettes that had a shade that looked like, oh, yeah, this is what I always wanted, that looked like it would be like a true coat on my eyes, and they always ended up either not very pigmented, because I'm guessing this is a hard shade to formulate properly, just because of the amount of times I've seen it done wrong, and I've experienced it being done wrong. But also, I just don't know if people are just afraid of it because of the like Mimi Bobak sort of feeling, or the like, my mom used to have eyeshadow palettes that were free gifts from like Estee Lauder and all those like mall makeup brands, like department store makeup brands, that were like a bright blue, a navy blue, a white, matte, and a silver. And and a black. And I'd be like, what the fuck do you even do with this? And like, as a little kid, I had a hard time dealing with it because formula wasn't what it is now. Like, makeup formulas today are so legit compared to the like stuff that high-end high-end department store makeup brands were selling for stupid amounts of money, which probably don't don't feel like stupid amounts of money now because of the amount of just sheer inflation and oversaturation of a booming billion-dollar market that makeup is. But like, the blue never looked like this blue. It always looked like sort of a weird off-tone blue. It always pulled more gray rather than blue. And you can see, even as I'm blending this out, it's keeping that true blue color into it. It is not turning into a gray anywhere. And that's what I've always been looking for, and most of my cobalts go very gray toned on me. And this one actually is pretty decent. Is one shade enough to keep this palette? No. But I really liked the look I made with it a couple days ago, which hopefully I will eventually post. If I haven't posted that one yet, I definitely haven't posted this one yet, so it's silly for me to be talking about it. But, you know, you do what you must. It's a little bit more pigmented, but it's definitely a less blendable formula than the Kaleidos, because Kaleidos is just so buttery soft. But I just want to add a little bit more brightness to this to match that sort of cobalty. Yeah, I didn't do a ton, just a little bit, but I do think that it helped. Which unfortunately does put the Kaleidos palette a little bit more on the chopping block, because like the mints are some of my favorite shades in that palette, other than the like acid greens on this side of the palette are legitimately, like, if this were a quad, I feel like I would get more use out of it than I get out of this side. This side is beautiful, but if I would need a darker version of this and a darker version of this for it to be totally usable as a standalone palette, and I know I don't use standalone palettes. I use 2 to 8 palettes per look, and like, I am what I always hated on YouTube, but like that's part of the reason why I do it, is because like I own all these palettes, because people are like, oh, can you imagine all the amazing looks you can get out of this? You can get an all mint look, an all pink look, an all green look, you can mix them together. And it's like, I can't get an all anything look except for maybe the green out of just this palette. I have to bring things in order to make it functional for how I like to do my makeup. And so I'm not trying to sell you a palette as a one and done, because I don't think any of them are, unless you're buying a super neutral palette where you can just put on a neutral eye, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for ridiculous rainbow makeup. So most rainbow palettes, even if it has, this is a full 30 shade palette, and while like there's enough depth and definition in the blues and the greens, almost enough definition in the oranges, definitely enough in the pinks and purples, and some really bright shades and the black. This is the closest thing to a rainbow palette, but even that, it's like not all of the tones go perfectly together, not all the shimmers feel like they fit with the mattes that they are supposed to go with. It's still not a perfect palette. I still have to pull other things in to make it perfect. So I'm never gonna sell you a one and done palette, because I don't think there is one. I'm also not trying to sell you anything. To be honest, like, my reviews are mostly for people who already have them and want to know sort of how they function. I don't know. Do I even know why I'm doing these videos? Because people told me I should. I'm going to stop here because I'm almost at 15 minutes, and I'm going to grab my glitter primer and figure out what shimmer I'm using, if it's just going to be the one from the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette, or if I'm pulling something else in, figure out what I'm doing for my inner corner, and I'll be right back. Okay, so let's start with glitter primer. I pulled a bunch of random stuff up, and we'll see what all I end up using, but starting with a glitter primer to blend parts of my lid with no shadow on it, or overlapping a little bit of shadow. stick from my finger, which also warms the pigment up and helps it sort of melt together in a way that a brush almost never does, even when you put like a setting spray on a stick. I find it just doesn't work as well. So putting this right over where I placed that glitter primer, and it's sticking gorgeously. There's so much pigment in this shimmer, which is something I don't always need from a shimmer, but I really like. When it looks this pigmented in the pan, it better look that pigmented on the eyes, and this one delivers. And frankly, Kaleidos, in the palettes of theirs that I have, unless they specifically state that it's going to be a topper shade, they usually deliver when it comes to pigmented shimmer shades. I will say, you can see so much fallout under my eye, especially the way it's lit. And this is why I didn't do base makeup first, because fluffing it away with a brush is not actually doing anything. There's still so much shimmer on it. So this is when I will take my cotton pad soaked in my cellar water and use it to clean up all of that fallout under the eye. There's still some shimmer, but it's better. It's a lot better. And the amount of fallout that this shimmer had, even though it's gorgeous, is another nail in this guy's coffin. I do think I'm probably going to end up selling this, which is sad for me. I remember being so excited when I got it, but like how hard I found it to use in terms of like figuring out what to do with such an interesting color story that like felt complete and put together. Like that alone should have been the nail in the coffin. I should have really, God, I hate saying this, I should have really given up at that point, but I didn't. I'm going to use this sort of bluey teal shade from the Efflorescence palette called Right on my inner corner panels. Very dark green I didn't think this part through, if I'm being totally honest. Inner corner highlight is not always something that I think all the way through. A lot of times it's just me pulling out favorite shimmer shades that I know are high impact, like the Efflorescence palette. So I've done a layer of the blue and a layer of the green. I am now going to dip into the blue and then the green and then the blue and then the green to mix it on my brush and sort of swirl it all over, just to give me a kind of minty tone on my inner corner. And frankly, that turned out beautifully, so happy with what I did. Cool. At this point, I think I'm going to deepen up my outer corner a little bit with that same cobalt blue and just bring this a little out of the mid-tones that mint, those mints in the Kaleidos palette really keep it stuck in. I like something a little bit deeper on my outer corner. Like even this is pretty mid-tone. I could go in with the navy blue in this palette and like make it a lot deeper. But like, I don't know if I want to go that deep with this look, but I do want to at least keep this much depth, because when that sort of went away and was not keeping its depth because of the amount of that shimmer I put on, it really started feeling flat. And a difference between lights and darks is how you keep things from looking really flat, giving it dimension, giving the outer corner depth, the inner corner light and brightness. It changes how your eye shape feels, and it changes how your look ends up if you don't have enough for pastel works, but if that's not performs beautifully. This is actually sneaking further and further into my keeping it, not just because it's Rick and Morty, but because it's actually very good palettes. I'm actually pretty happy about this one. Okay, let's talk liners. I do have too many liners. I'm bringing out both cups today. I do have a cobalt blue from Urban Decay that I do think I want to put on my outer corner. And I have quite a few minty shades. And so I want to test a few of them on the back of my hand, just to sort of see if one feels better than the others. I'm also going to grab out my shiny white. Okay, so cobalt blue, perfect match, no questions. Definitely going to use this. But then I have two different depths of mintiness. I have the LA Girl Cosmetics, which is in a lighter, more blue tone packaging, but actually comes out darker on the skin. As you can see, really beautiful swatching on these shades. Like, it's not pulling or dragging. This is the Colourpop Zulu, which is my very first matte shade I ever had, and even though the packaging looks darker, the actual shade is significantly lighter than the LA Girl. And then if I want to keep it super bright on that inner corner, I've got my shimmery white. And so I do think what I probably will do is the cobalt, the lighter mint, and a little bit of this towards the very end. I'm going to put away my Shockwave. And cup of higher end or off-brand mix. So I do go down below into the lash line a little bit, just to leave a lasting color stain. Zulu, actually not only one of my first mint shades that I had, one of my first shades of this liner I've ever had. I have repurchased twice in the amount of time I've been doing colorful bright makeups, because I have either used them until they were dried and cracking when I used them after like months of usage, maybe even a year of usage at one point. And so I ended up picking up a new one that just worked better because it was newer. One time I dropped one well before its time and it broke into multiple pieces, and I just couldn't get it to function well after that. And one time I used it until it was a little nub that wouldn't stay up when I rolled it all the way up. So this is my fourth one that I've owned. My third one that I am using until something bad happens to it, like it runs out, it stops functioning, or I actually go and break it like I did that other one. And then I used a little bit too much of the white, so I'm coming back in and re-establishing that mint, because the white is not supposed to take the place of the mint. It's just supposed to accent that inner corner. And that's what I'm doing for my waterline. I do really like having multiple colors in the waterline, because I think that it ends up feeling more cohesive with a multiple colors on the lid situation. And liner swatches are often a bit of a pain to sort of scrub off the back of my hand, but when I do it so that I can show people on a YouTube video, yes. I wanted to do like zoom in via editing, but I don't do zero editing. Absolutely zero. None. When I did that first symbol, that normally, at least in scuba diving, meant okay, and I used it for zero, that was not me being a person advocating for white power. Just need you to know. There are people in my life who would accuse me of that just for that particular hand signal, because they've told me that that's what it was. But I was a scuba diver long before I was an aware human. And while that's not okay, it does mean that that symbol means okay and isn't a bad symbol to use, because thumbs up underwater as a scuba diver doesn't mean okay, it means I need to go up. So you had to have a symbol that meant okay, and so it was the circle finger with the three things up, which now has been shown that it was used as like a dog whistle for white power, and like that's never what I mean by it, but I need to let people know that that's never what I mean by it, because the world is a scary place right now, and people are pretending to not be bad people and are setting up dog whistles that show that they don't care about not being a bad person. And I just need people to know that that's not me. If I make a mistake, let me know, and I will try to take accountability for it. This is a makeup channel, guys. Why do I keep doing this? Okay, I'm gonna just stop. I'm gonna get my base makeup ready. We're gonna do concealer under the eyes and on some of my dots, and then I'm just gonna do my normal foundation routine with some skincare aspects. I'll be right back. Okay. I didn't grab everything, but I at least grabbed enough for right now. Taking a little bit of my serum concealer from Typology. Not sponsored, but dear Lord, Typology, I want to be. Because I have been using this brand for almost a year now. For pretty much all of my everyday base products. I originally got some of the lip oils, which they're not bad. I just have other lip oils I like a little better. I still use the lip oils from time to time. It's not the hero product that I thought it was going to be for me. But what is the hero product for me is the serum concealer, the tinted serum, which will be even more of a hero product once I have it in the right shade, and the glow drops with vitamin C and aloe vera. Those three things make my skin look so much better. Like, they make it look more healthy and bright with those glow drops. They help it feel better because they're very moisturizing. They sort of even my skin tone without feeling like it's covering me up. And like, this concealer is doing a great job of covering up my little spots, at least enough to make them look less noticeable. But I know that they're there, and people can see that I am a spotty human, even though I am doing literal spot concealing, which is something that I like. Now, if you're looking for full coverage, this is not your beat, but you also probably have days when you don't want full coverage that day, and so that's what I use this for. This is never a full coverage foundation setup for me. That's sunscreen and more of that serum concealer, and then I'm using the wrong shade of my tinted serum. I'm going to use it all the way up before I buy my right shade, because there's no reason to buy more when you have some and you can make it work for you. And then last but not least, the glow drops, which I have tried to use as a very natural looking highlighter. I find it boring as a highlighter, but I also came up in makeup in the 2016 to 2018 era where the Moonchild palette was the only thing that I used on my face. And it's only gotten brighter since then. So that just never be enough of a highlighter for me. I'm using a foundation brush to mix everything on the back of my hand, and then to get an even but lighter coverage, I am using a brush. It's also making sure that the sunscreen will do at least something on my skin, where it's putting it on with a dampened beauty sponge would not necessarily. I'm making sure to get all the way to my hairline, because that is somewhere where I get burned very often because I have very thin hair and I have a lot missing in my scalp and hairline area. I am taking vitamins to try to help with that, but I get sunburns on my scalp and at my hairline quite a bit. Similarly, I'm going all the way down my neck so that everything looks uniform. And at this point, I could be done with my whole look. I could just put on some lashes and some lips and be done. But I do really like bronzer, highlighter, and blush. And going the extra mile with some liner, which I have a couple of ideas for. And also making sure my brows, just punch myself in the head with a brush, making sure my brows look good. But that's my face. I'm going to set my T-zone area and right under my eyes, and then we will start in with our powder blush, bronzer, and highlighter. Yeah, the powder I'm using is that same Kiko. Jeez Louise. I don't know what I actually want to call this. I do realize that is silly. Just a nice fluffy brush. I don't know if this still exists, but until I run out of it, I'm going to use it. Or if it stops working, or starts smelling bad. I am going to pick some up on my puff to get a little bit of, yeah, you can see it pick up on there, a little bit more under my eyes, because that is somewhere that tends to see creasing the worst, and my chin is very oily, and this part right here on my forehead is very oily. And then lightly pick it up and lightly dust it on the rest of my face and down my chin. I don't want to fully mattify, because part of what I like about the foundation routine that I have is that it leaves me sort of glowy and moisturized looking. And this definitely makes it so that I am touchable without feeling sticky or without transferring foundation to my hands, but it keeps that sort of soft look. Alright, coming up next is bronzer. This is a very old bronzer. Still smells good, still works, comes in some of the most beautiful packaging of a bronzer that I've ever owned, and even the pan embossing, even though I've used the crap out of it, is still really beautiful. You can tell what it used to be, even though there is a whole part of this pan embossing that is just gone. But this is really good for light skinned folks. So if you have this in your collection and you've forgotten about it, or if you see it at TJ Maxx, which is where I picked it up from for 13 bucks, Too Faced, this is worth 13 bucks to me. I've gotten way more than 13 bucks of use out of it, but I'm going to tell you right now, I wouldn't have picked it up that anymore. I used that for $7. It says 17 on there, but it was not 17 from Sephora, the Too Faced website, back when this existed. I think it was probably closer to 25 to 30. And while that's still not terrible, like, I know that like the Marc Jacobs bronzer that everyone used to simp after was significantly more than that, but I like this one better. I own a Marc Jacobs bronzer and it's fine. Also bought that at TJ Maxx. Also probably for sub $20. Cool, that's my bronze contour, and frankly, it's my favorite way to use bronzers because it does add definition to my cheekbones, but it is not nearly as pigmented or as stark looking as a contour. This is a Colourpop blush that doesn't exist, but I'm sure they have a similar blush color available now in a similar powder formula. I also like their Super Shock blushes, and I should really pull the ones that I have out and see if they're still Super Shocky, because if they are, I will definitely use those a little more often, especially during the winter when my skin loves something that's a little bit more body-like. But this is just a really beautiful neutral pinky blush on me, and I love it. And the packaging for this collection, the I don't remember what it was, but it was old vibes, fancy vibes. I just truly love the packaging. So I'm glad I have it, even though it's a pretty standard shaped blush. And then I'm going in with a Kaleidos product that is not on the chopping block. This is the Moon Cruiser Space Age Highlighter. It is a beautiful bluey purple, and frankly, I just wanted to go with something almost matching the look, but a little bit different. And so I didn't go in with like a bright green, I went with a teal, which is a NYX makeup company's teal highlighter. And in like this sort of formula, where you can actually see the color when it's applied. Like, that is a beautiful blue purple look. I need to clean the blue purple off of that. Specifically, Kaleidos. Make another Space Age highlighter, but in like a true teal. Motherfuck, I would wear that. And now I'm going to do my brows and my setting spray. My alarm turns that off because I forget that I have alarms turned on sometimes. This is the one that says, hey, working is important, you should do that. So I will be getting to work very shortly here. This is a deeper shade of the Colourpop brow than I have been using, and I am just using whatever was closest at hand, and this one was closest at hand, so I grabbed it. I have to be a little bit more careful with the darker shades because while it does work on my skin tone, it is not necessarily something that I can go ham with, because then my brows will get significantly too dark. I may have gone a little too ham. It already looks a little too dark. And then, because I can't do anything half-assed, the closest one that I happen to grab of the tinted brow gel is also my dark brown. So the world said your brows are dark today unless you want to be really specific and take the time to go back. And I don't. So I'm going to take the time to very gently scrape off as much product as possible so I can sort of control the amount of dark gel going on my brows. For such a mid-toned look, I'm doing some really deep brows, which is, you know, fine, I guess. Alrighty, well, dirty brows that I have lazy, you don't necessarily get to choose when it comes to hand when you're grabbing things lazily. I do think I did a pretty decent job of filling them in though. Like, they're feeling a little closer to sisters than cousins today, so, you know, you win some, you lose a lot. That's politics for you. My favorite quote from a child's show. If you know what show that's from, first of all, you're the realist. Second of all, comment it. Setting spray. Speaking of things that I'm trying to use up, I have a little bit left of the Too Faced Hangover. I really like this. And I have like 2 more uses. I can just feel I have like 2 more uses left. It smells really nice. It has a decent sprayer. The sprayer is a little bit harsh, but it gets all over your face. Like it's a big enough spray area that I both feel like it is actually going on my face where I'm putting it, but I don't have to like freaking forgot the word eyeliner. I'm doing so good today, you guys. I am possibly using this one from the Glisten Cosmetics Pride collection. This was their by gender. When I got the quad of Pride liners, I got, it comes in such cute packaging, and the profits all go to Not a Phase, which is a LGBTQ foundation, but I got bisexual because that is me. I got non-binary and transgender because that is my spouse, and then I want to get the big eyeliner that is in this format at some point, so I just picked the fourth as the one that is the colors that I think I would use the most, and that like if I was packing one of these to go with me, that like having white and purple and pinks and blues, this is so my cup of tea that I was like, this is a good one, even though I'm not bi gender and I don't know anyone who's bi gender. But this one is, yeah, look at that, 50% of profits go to Not a Phase. The reason this is a sticker is because they used to go to another company, and then their Glisten's like fans and customers and supporters were like, hey, the company that you, or the charity that you are sending things to is actually not that great for us trans folks, or you know, like has not the morals that we'd like to like think of you as associated with. And they were like, hey, if that's how you feel, we're going to look into other you know, places we can donate 50% of the profit, and we will let you know, because we are going to change it, because we do care about listening to what you have to say. And they fucking did. This is why I have an affiliate code with Glisten Cosmetics, because girl, you did exactly what the world wants from people who make mistakes. You listened, you didn't deflect or say it's not my fault, you didn't stick to your guns and say just because I already have everything set up and it's going to cost me money to make this change, I'm just going to do it. You changed things, and you made the people who support you proud to continue supporting you. And like, that's fucking awesome. And my little cup of water. And I think what I want to do is I want to do a dotted wing. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take a small brush. This is from the Geo collab. I can tell because of the color of it. And I'm going to start with white because it will be the easiest to see. So I'm just dipping into the center white shade on the by gender palette. And like I said, like with a palette like this, it is even more like you're just using kids' watercolors, where you're like, I want this shade, so I'm going to wet that shade. It's going to get on my brush, and I'm just going to dupe, dupe, dupe. That is the line my wing is going to follow. But instead of drawing a wing, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Dupe, dupe, dupe. I think they're pretty even. Sure, we'll go with that. I got liner on the slash, but that is the approximate shape, and I do want it to start right where the shimmer is. So I'm putting like guidelines so that when I start going in haphazardly, it feels less haphazard. Dupe and dupe right above my crease line, and dupe, dupe. So this is approximately the shape that I'm creating. And I'm going to do that by adding a bunch of dots in a bunch of different colors. So this is where it gets fun. Laying out all the things I need. I am going to actually go in with this beautiful shimmer shade that I got in the Advent calendar called Misty. There we go. And I'm going to create a nice big pool of Misty. And I am going to add big dots first, because it is easy to fill is really liquidy so that it can pick up on the back of brushes. So I have a nice big pool of misty going. I'm going to take the back of this brush and I'm just going to this is not the most pigmented of the liners I'm using, and by that I mean like shimmers are sometimes hard to get to like show up on their own when it comes to eyeliner because it mostly shows up when the light hits it. Alright, next color that I'm going to go into I believe is going to be the blue in this palette. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wet it as much as I can. I'm okay if it mixes a little bit with the more teal color next to it. I may purposefully do that at some point, but I'm just going to go in with that color in the area I'm making my wing. And I'm going to go in with some small ones. And then I'm going to clean off my brush a little bit. I am going to mix the teal color next to it in with that color just to get a slightly different shade of this color. Going on. Cool. Let's clean off my brush again. And this time I'm going to go back in with white. No, I'm going to do white last. I'm going to pick up Ivy, a split pin that I got in the advent calendar. And I'm going to use both the dark and the light. I'm going to start with the dark because it's easier to see the light on top. Of the look, but I do want to add some depth to our dots here without just using black. And a couple of big ones. Cool. And now let's go in with the light shade from this little palette or split pan, which is a beautiful sort of sagey green, which once again, not perfect for what we're doing, but still a really pretty color that sort of falls enough within this that it feels not out of place. You can sort of see how it's coming together at this point. Ooh, that was not a complete dot. Technically, neither of those were. There we go. You can see that's what happens when you don't add enough water. Let's add some more water and mix it in. Because that's on the crease, it is always going to look bad. And then I'm going to add some little ones. I made it a little too liquidy. And this is a point where I'm going to stop caring if I lightly overlap things, because we're going to start making things bump into one another on purpose. And last but not least, I am going to go in with that white again. Just need to make sure that all the pigment is off of my brush, because I want this to be white, not a really pale blue. I suppose if it's a little bit of a pale blue, it's not the worst. And I'm going to go in with my pure white, which does stand out from everything else because it's pure white. Taking a bunch of little dots, and then do some big dots right on top in white to sort of break up the feeling of monotony, something that is very different from everything else. I just sprayed a white liner all over myself. Stop and put everything away, and we can do lips and lashes. Okay, for lashes, I'm going to do a combo. I'm going to do mint lashes on my inner corner and my cobalt blue on my outer corner, and we're going to deal with the fact that this is a good volumizer, but this is not a great quality. I really want this color in this formula and the Bad Gal Bag. And then we may add some sparkles on top. So starting with the Colourpop Blew Ya Mind. This is the color of eyeshadow I'm always looking for. A beautiful cobalt. This is feeling a little bit dry. I feel like I haven't had it for very long. I think I've only used it once or twice. So if this is drying up, first of all, that's not normal for my Colourpop mascara. And second of all, it's disappointing. So I was really excited about using this today. Okay, you can kind of see it. It is adding some nice depth, which is what a lot of time I am using mascara for. There we go. I sort of twisted the brush like around and like scraped it around the sides, and it does seem to be picking up than it looks on the bristles, but not as much darker as I feel like the Colourpop did. So I'm glad to know that these two do work well together. I do wish that I could see it a little bit more, but I do know that I'm also asking it to do one of the hardest things, which is compete with similar colors right in the same area. Put a tiny bit on here. I know I could wait for it to dry and scrape it off, but my brain won't let me. It will make me touch it before it's dry, and then it will smear and get worse. So a little bit of micellar water, not even enough to take off the highlighter in that area. So that is that one. This one, I don't know if they've made these better, but I bought this ages and ages ago. It still smells normal, it still acts normal. I still have so much of it, and it has a bad scraper inside the bottle. So I end up being a personal scraper where I'm taking just gobs of excess mascara off my wand before I use it, because this is so liquidy. Makes it a little, so I'm trying to get some of that down in there so I can keep scraping. Just Louise is going up and over the side. What a wild mascara. I bought one from Colourpop that looks like it should be lighter, and I was like, yes, I can finally get rid of this. It is a deep teal, and I'm actively mad about it. Like, I am actively so mad about it. But once I get it to a manageable amount of mascara, it's a small enough wand and instead of sticking it on into the whole tube again, I just take a little off the top and put it on. To be honest, I think I might go to the drugstore and see if NYX still makes this color and if they've improved the formula and the packaging at all, and finally get rid of this one, even though it is my most effective light shade of mascara. The amount of work I put into using it makes it virtually worthless to me. And I can't put this on until it all dries, and that NYX takes a long time to dry. I'm gonna help it out by doing that. My nose is running so bad. It has been for days. Now it could be because our lows are in the negatives these days, and so my body's just like, no. Getting that close, you could really see the mascara a little better. Interesting. Lips. I think I'm gonna go in with the shade Whimsical in the Wonder Skin Lip Stain. It is a little mauve, a little rosy, a little neutral. So I find it to be a good replacement for Bella until I order a new Bella for the like mauve tones. But it's a little bit more friendly to more looks because it's less pinky purple with a little bit more of a neutral edge to it. Now, I want a YouTuber use this. I do believe she's sponsored partnering, and like frankly, I'm just gonna get at me. Because I have like 7 lip stains already, and I will continue buying them when I run out of them, or if you come out with more colors that interest me. And I use them so often anyway, so like, get at me. But she left it on for like 3 to 5 minutes rather than like 1 minute, and it came out significantly more pigmented than mine do. So I'm going to do the same. I am going to put on my perfume. Today I am wearing the Commodity Milk Orchid. I was not sure if buying this very expensive giant bottle, even when I think it was Black Friday sale, so it was like on sale, but like it was still way more expensive than I normally spend on perfumes, because I normally get these sizes. And I was like, I don't even know what this smells like. There's no way for me to smell it online, and you're getting such a big bottle. But it came with like a pour spout so that you can fill up a travel size. And I was like, you know what? There's just so many good things, and like Commodity is sought after, and this is, I believe, limited edition that only comes out every so often. And so I was like, worst case scenario, I hate it and I resell it. Best case scenario happened. I love it. I'm so glad that I only used this much of it up over the last couple of months. I'm going to continue using it as long as it exists for, because it's floral without being floral, it's sweet without being too sweet, it's milky without feeling gross. Some of the milky scents are just sort of like off, and this one isn't. It's gourmand without being overly sweet. It's floral without feeling like a grandmother. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a floral cookie with like just the right amount of lightly sweetened buttercream. But a perfume. So let's talk about what I'm wearing, because I like what I'm wearing. This shirt is a LeVar Burton quote. Read the books they don't want you to read. That's where the good stuff is. LeVar Burton is a personal hero of mine. I think that he's very cool. I loved him in Star Trek. Reading Rainbow was my first introduction to good kids literature, and he just seems like a fabulous human on the whole. I am also wearing, I don't know if it has any branding on it that's easy to get to. Oh, there we go. Comfort. Yeah, Comfort. This is my new official favorite hoodie of all times. Not sponsored, but I do have an affiliate code because they just give those away apparently. But it is the softest hoodie I've ever worn, both on the inside and on the outside. And that's where most hoodies get me. They're so warm and cozy on the inside, and then they're like rough or just normal sweatshirt feeling on the outside. And this one, I like pet myself when I wear it. They are pricey. Get them when they're on sale. If you want to support me financially, you could also use the discount link on my Instagram, but like, don't do that for me. Do that for the fact that this is fabulous and get yourself a discount. But I am talking about it to everyone because I want to wear it every day, and it's like, it's a light color, so A, it's noticeable if you wear the same thing every day, and B, it will eventually get dirty, so I'm like, oh, I think I just need to buy some like dark colors of it, and I like don't need to buy more hoodies, but like, I want every item of clothing that I wear to be made in this fabric, which I am also wearing some bright orange pants from this company. I used to want to be a sweatpants person. I've started becoming one. Before I started wearing these, I had my dog because she's the worst. She would get crotch all over her hair. So I was like, buying these because they're on sale. I got so many bags for them. And if they suck, I will never buy them again. And I have now bought 2 more pairs of those sweatpants because I am officially ruined for sweatpants. I don't wear other sweatpants. My spouse gave me a whole bunch of their old sweatpants, and they're like, they'll be a little bit baggy and they're worn, so they're super soft, and you're wearing a lot of them these days. I put them on, and then I'm like, oh, but I could be wearing something better than this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so tired. I think this has been enough time on, so let's see what it looks like when we take it off. I am just going to dip a cotton round into plain water. I don't use micellar water because that will take off some of the stain, because micellar water is a makeup remover. And I don't want to remove the makeup, I just want to wipe away. By the way, this color, Wonder Skin, make this exact shade in a long-lasting lipstick. This shiny, this color, just like don't have it peel off and get weird. I should have exfoliated my lips because this time of year I do have a lot of crevices that lip stain gets into. But human lips are human lips, and I don't care if you can tell that I have human lips. I'm not someone who loves the idea of getting lip filler, but like this color is natural enough that like when it fades, it's not going to be immediately apparent that I'm not wearing anything on my lips. But it's a stain, so it's going to last most of the day. It lasts through most eating even. Unless I'm eating something super greasy, it usually stays on. I usually don't have to reapply. So then what I like to do is take a balm or a gloss or like a other lipstick and put it on top. And that's what I'm going to do. This is the Kaleidos Glass Lip Melt, and this is their like gray and silver packaging, and it's in the shade Geek Out, and it's a really pretty like grayish purple, and I think goes really well with the lip stain. And it just feels really nice on. It's a little bit minty, it's a little bit tingly without being uncomfortable. And I think it goes really well with the rest of this look. So that is my lip combo, and that is the completed look. What do you think? I'm pretty happy with it. I really need to do this style of liner more often. It's super easy, it's super fun, and I do think that it's very effective at what it's doing. So I think that's gonna be it, guys. This was super fun. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.